Friends, yeah, today I am going to discuss just who uh, a student who is doing engineering sectors and like a PhD sectors, okay, BSc and something mathematical related something studying. So just I am going to discuss today vectors, matrices, and multidimensionals. I will try to cover all three topics. Otherwise, vectors I try to complete today. So let's see. First, I am going to what is the vector matrices and array of the higher dimensions and are essential tools in a numerical computing. So when a computations must be represented for a set of input values and the naturals and something like a natural terms, and you can say just another it can represent as a data as a array and computational in a term of array operations. So computations that are formulated this way are said to be vectorized. Vectorized computing eliminates the need for many explicit loops over the array elements by applying batch operations on the array data. So Python scientific computing environments to look the efficient data structures for working with the array are provided by the NumPy library. So we need to first import a NumPy library. So let's see, the NumPy means the NumPy library provides the data structures for representing a rich variety of arrays and methods and functions for operating such on an array. So NumPy provides the numerical backends for nearly every scientific of or a technical library Pythons. So let's first I am going to import a NumPy. So import NumPy. If you write NumPy means all modules inside of this NumPy has been imported. So I am going to represent as a NP. Okay, so look here, it has been imported. So NumPy has been imported. So after this we can access the functions and classes in the NumPy modules using the np namespace. So we assume that NumPy modules is imported, and now the NumPy array objects. So I am going to like a NumPy library is a data structures for representing the multidimensional array for homogeneous data, and it refers for the all elements in an array having with the same data types. So before that we have to understand some shapes. So I have already discussed tuples list dictionary. So basic attributes of the ND array classes. So shape means a tuples that contain the number of elements for each dimensions axis of array. Size means total number of the elements in the array, and NDIM means number of dimensions like axis, and n bytes means you can say the number of bytes used to store the data, and d types means the data types of the elements in the array. So let's I am going to create a single data. So let's see, just I am going to here write here data, and this data has been created np form, right? Np dot array. Okay, so np dot array. Look here. So array, it contains the array to strings, array equals, underscore, equivalent, array, reprs, array splits, array str. So many functions has been given, and some specific terms is also. So you can easily understand. So now I have written the array and need a parenthesis. Now the look here, one square brackets and another square brackets, because I am going to write more than 1 comma 2 first I have created, and another just I write here comma, and again I am going to create 3 comma 4, yeah, 2 comma 3. Now again just okay, right here 3 comma 4, don't worry. Now next I am going to create the again next brackets and right here 5 comma 6. Okay, so the just how these we have to understand how these attributes are assessed of an instance, the data of a class LD array look like. So I have created one data, and data look like, is it working and not working? Yeah, now it is a working, but I want to see the what types of the data has been created by me right here. So I write here type, okay, and because I have given the data as a variable like a data, so I write here data. So look here, so it has been created. So nd array, what types of the nd array? So nd array types of the array types of the data has been created. Now I am going to write here just how do I see means data look like this one. So look here, data, if I am going to write here the data and click here without any parenthesis, so look like a data as a this way. So 1 2 as in the single, second and third, and all are look as a inside of this parenthesis. And I need to, so another the need to want to see the what ndim means, number of dimensions in this data. What is the total number of dimensions in data? So you write here data dot ndim ndim. So this is the number of dimensions has been, I think, and okay, yeah, ndim. So number of dimensions has been, so there are first it has been 2 dimensions of this data has been given. Okay, so look here, rows and column it represents. So only the another way we can see data shape. So data dot shape. So data dot shape means it can represent what is the total number of rows and total number of the columns. So there are 3 rows and 2 columns. Now I want to see the size of this data. So data dot size. So I have seen the total number of elements in this data. So there are 6 elements in this data. So now just there are I am look like these value are as integers, but data types, whenever I am going to describe the data types, so if I write here the integer types of the data, integer types has contains so many variants, so number of variants. So I need to understand inside of this data what variant has been inside of this integers. So let's see. So I am going to write here data dot d type. So data dot d type, right? So now we can easily understand. So d types means it contains int 64, integer 64, because int 8 variant of data types integers, int 16 versions, int 32 versions, int 64 versions, right here. So this is a variant, so 64 variants integers. Similarly, now another way you can, in bytes you can also look here. If I write here data dot n bytes, n bytes, right? So n bytes means what is the total number of the bytes. So it contains 48 bytes. Okay, so this one is a, so now here nd array instance, like a data is a created from a nested python and list using this type nd array, and we can easily understand these things. So similarly, if you like to the integers, booleans, so you can say the booleans type of the data, floats, subfloats also, complex, these are the numeric type, integers, booleans, uh, floats, okay, complex, these are the numeric types of the data. So numericals work, we most important data types are integers, floats for floating points numbers, and another is like a complex, just complex floating point numbers. So is these data types comes in a different size, like a integer 32 for the 32 bits integers, integer 64 means 64 bits integers. Okay, so this is a way we can understand. Let's see just some examples. I am going to discuss like some integers, some floats, some complex. So I am going to create here np dot array and parenthesis 1 square brackets, and I am going to write 1 comma 2 comma 3. And one more thing, just I represent as a comma, I need to write here just d types means data types, d type, right? So d type will equal to np dot integers, int. So look here what happened, just I have written here np dot array, okay, np dot int dty pe, absolutely right. Did I get any mistake in? I think the module numpy has no attribute, this one numpy at that array, okay. So array I have given ARRAY, so I think okay, this is my mistake I have done, okay, right. So look here what happens, just user library python 3 dist package entry point and the launching the ipython kernel array, this one, okay. So now similarly, if I am going to write here same, copy and paste here, and I am, if you are not about just do not understand like what is the floats and complex, you can see the my another video I have already described. So float, look here, np dot and float, float, right. So there are types of the float, you can see here also. And now I am going to represent here floats has been represented because decimal 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, so you can put here the float. Similarly I am going to write here complex. So let's try here. I want to write here the same array, and but I need to the data types is a complex right here. So np dot complex, so look here, so your array has been look like a complex way. 1 plus 0 dot j, actually as a textbook you can understand just I means iota, I represent as a iota as a I square, I cube, and so these are the complex, but in the pythons we can represent in hands of I as a j right here. So this has been, I think it is a clear, and you can easily understand what types of the data has been created. So let's see next. I means easily understand just any two data types can be added, can be subtracted. Okay, so let's try here. I am taking here one is the float and another is complex data types. So if I am going in a python, just copy and paste because I want to save my time, and this data has been like this, and I can represent here d1 as a variable, right. And another I am going to take here the complex data types, and now it is look like a represent as a d2, and copy and paste. I want to add in these two variables means d1 plus d2. Let's see what happens. So I think d1 and d2 has been added, and can I get any output? Absolutely, I have gotten the outputs. Just look here, 1 plus 1, 2 and plus 0j. Similarly 2 plus 2 and 4, because these are the real parts. All just input 1 2 3, and here is also 1 2 3. These are the real parts, and so and some are the complex, so you can easily real parts can be and be added, and this has been written as a complex form, right. So whenever if I have added this, but I want to write dot d types. Okay, so what types of the data? So let's see, just I am going to write here this one, and now but this may be as a like a inside of brackets. Okay, like a tuples, and then like dot d types, d type. Okay, so let's see what happened. D dot d types means it has been created as a complex 128. So we just before few seconds before we have already discussed different type of the integers, floats, complex. So it has been described. So whenever I combine floats and complex, it has been created the new data, and this is called 128, complex 128 bytes right here. Now the real and imaginary parts. So you can easily understand. So what is the real parts, and another is the what is the real imaginary parts. So I have written here this array. So this array has been written, and data has been written this way, and now I am going to write here do data dot real. Now I am going to write here data dot real. So let's see. I am going to here I can represent here. Okay, control shape and control V, but I don't need here the data types. Okay, so I am taking as a variable one is the D as a. So look here how to look like a D. So D can represent here D and as a added of these two terms and dot real. So D as a real means it represent only like a real values right here. So 2, 4 and 6, these are the real value. If I put here the D dot imaginary, D dot imaginary right here, IMAG. So look here, the imaginary value has been printed. So similarly, is it clear how do I get the real and imaginary value? So I am going to write here the real and imaginary parts. Real and imaginary part. Imaginary. Right. So you can easily specify real and imaginary parts. I hope. So now next I am going to order array data just like a memory, so we can easily understand the lumpy array can be specified to be stored in a row measure format and using the keyword arguments like a order C. Column measures format means using the keyword argument order F. When array created or reshaped, so the default format is a row measure C and F. Okay, so creating an array is just, and I am similarly the just if you write the np dot array np dot zeros. So np dot array means create an array for which the elements are given by an array like a object which can be like a nested. So Python list here it can be the tuples and iterable a sequence. And another, if you write the np dot zeros, so create an array with the specific dimensions and data types is fitted that is fitted with ones. If you write the np dot diag diagonals, so create a diagonals array with a specified value along the diagonals and zeros elsewhere. np dot arrange, you can write a create an array with a evenly just space value spaced value between the specified start and ends and increment. np dot line space, np dot line space means array with the eventually spaced value between the specified starts and end. And similarly log space means it create array logarithm space. And mesh grid generate a coordinates matrices. And for from functions create array and list. And from file create an array with the data and binary. So these are the way you can. So thank you. Today I can stop this one, and next class I will try to discuss more.